Pritchett and Frank Stams the morning after. Thoughts, fellas?
Well, we said going into the game the Irish needed to punch them in the nose, that they needed to play a mistake-free football game, that we probably needed a little help from Ohio State. And I thought, man, the first drive, the Irish looked amazing. I mean, I think the offense.
Amazing.
No, they did. They kept the
10-minute drive.
10-minute drive.
I would have had to be 12 or 13 plays, and came away with a touchdown.
I mean, we were in the end zone that they scored in, and they literally were pushing Ohio State backwards. And then, of course, Ohio State got the ball.
Yeah, at that pace, to me, I say to myself, Ohio State would be lucky to get 4 possessions if Notre Dame could do that every time.
So I don't know why that wasn't our recipe for the rest of the game, but clearly Ohio State's offense went down and scored, and then we got behind the chains with a penalty and an incomplete pass. And once we got down, it seemed like we sort of abandoned our game plan. We've all said all year that Riley Leonard's not, a drop-back passer. That's not his strength. I thought the Ohio State quarterback played flawlessly. They only had 1 turnover. That guy, at one point, he was 12 for 12, or completed 12 in a row. And it's what you said earlier. Their wide receivers are elite. They definitely, we couldn't guard them, and they converted all their third downs.
Notre Dame, right? They had what? They were 6 for 6 on third downs. I think that's ridiculous. And the whole time, our best option was that, we had that nice long drive. They had a drive. Keep that game short with Notre Dame's. Keep it close with Notre Dame's, best recipe. And so once they got behind, everybody knows they're not built as a come-from-behind team. So it got tough at that point.
Well, there was hope in the second half with the come-from-behind mentality. When they got it to literally, I know it was a stretch, but 2 scores down 16. And they go just down 8, 31-23. Boy, I tell you what, that Irish Nation and all the green came alive in that stadium, and there was a lot of
came hope. Alive, Frank. It was the Fighting Irish, man. They came fighting back, right? When you thought it was over, the Fighting Irish, man, they showed up and they made it a 8-point game, man, and they were ready to
back before it was 8 points. We get down, we're down 16. And we get the ball, we're down to the 5 or 7 yard line, and we've been kind of running the ball, play action. And I thought the play calling down there, it seems like the offense coordinator abandoned his plan once he got inside some of the red zone. I didn't love the 3 play calls, but what do you do? And then Marcus decides to kick a field goal from the 10-yard line, and the guy misses it. Remember, that happened before we came back to make it 8 points.
Right.
So did Notre Dame, Michael, all year long, you've been saying, and I've agreed with most of it, is, they haven't played anybody. So
nobody agreed with most of it. Every time I said that, Wes would say, they played Texas A&M the first game of the year that was ranked 20th in the country and lost 4 games all year. So that was their one claim to fame, that they beat Texas A&M the first game of the year. Okay? Now,
I said I agree with you. They didn't play anybody during the season, but I said they played Georgia and Penn State and Indiana in the playoffs, so you can't say they hadn't played anybody.
Well, they played somebody last night.
Yeah,
and when Michael, what? So how did it? The game's over. Ohio State won. They had the edge. The talent, they were a little bit deeper, probably a little bit more physical.
Well, and that's what I'll say is the Notre Dame came back, made it a good game, a competitive game. Ohio State, from the second quarter and third quarter, they beat up Notre Dame. Like when I saw the wide receiver catching the ball and delivering a hit on the cornerback, and where the cornerback was getting, knocked backwards, I was like, they're beating up Notre Dame's defense here. It's not supposed to be that way. The defense is supposed to be beating up the offense. And so at that point, I was like, all right, it's over. But then Notre Dame came back and made it a respectable game instead of a blowout. And so, that's what you can ask for. They're a good team. They're coached well, and they came back and made it a respectable game instead of a blowout.
So why did that game, I mean, why did the game, the first drive we talked about, 10 minutes, controlling the pace,
Keeping Ohio State off the
keeping
field.
Ohio State's offense off the field. And I thought to myself, I'm texting people out, I said, get ready to hand over the crown because Notre Dame is going to win this game. And Ohio State, again, will be lucky to have a few possessions with Notre Dame controlling the pace. I mean, you couldn't have write a better script for it than the way from Marcus and the way he opened. Why did Notre Dame lose control of that game?
That's a great question. I think I keep talking about the second drive, but we got the ball back. It was 7-7. Our first play, we ran straight drop back. Riley Leonard steps up, overthrows a guy in the middle of the field. It would have been a 20-yard gain. Now we're 2nd and 10 behind the chains. And, then we had a penalty, and we get back, and we punt to them, and they go up 14-7, like, bam. And from that point on, to me, it felt like we were still in the game. We still had to be us, right? We talked about that. Because us is a grinded-out, slow burn offense, and the most important thing, keeping Ohio State off the field. And I think we started trying to play catch up a little bit. I don't know. I didn't understand why we didn't run the ball more. Frank says it's because we couldn't run the ball. I don't understand why Jeremiah Love touched the ball 4 times. I don't know why
Right, he had
ball
3.
out fast to our playmakers. Number 1 is a playmaker. All right, that kid Faison is a playmaker. Get him the ball. Ohio State was getting their guys the ball.
Notre Dame had 3. Love had 3 carries for 1 yard. I think at halftime or something close like that. So they never did develop anything consistent on offense. And so, to have that quarterback run the ball 10 times, for 48 yards, and Jeremiah Love's run the ball 3 times for 1 yard, you're not developing any kind of offense. And a minute left to go in the second quarter, it was still a 14-7 game. They scored right before the halftime, didn't they, to make it 21-7? So it was still
first in the second half.
Right. And so there were, it was close. Notre Dame was still in it, but I didn't like the fact that the offense of Ohio State's offense was running and doing damage to the Notre Dame's defensive guys. They couldn't have felt good about that, man. Like they weren't knocking anybody out.
No.
They were getting knocked out and knocked backwards. That's what did it for
I
me.
think we've
Clearly, that's a great Ohio State team. And
Yeah, you go ahead.
not taking anything away from Notre Dame. Had a wonderful, wonderful season. Deserved to be there, but that was an exceptional Ohio State team. Physical up front. I think for the most part of the game, they controlled the line of scrimmage. They were able to run the ball. The quarterback executed their quarterback. I mean, he didn't look like Joe Montana out there, but he converted on the third downs, kept their offense on the field, and they were able to recapture the momentum after that first drive, and then put up 28 points. I think it was 28-7 at one point, and then
31-7.
Yeah. What do you think about? I'm pretty sure that I saw Angeli go in the game, the backup quarterback. What do you guys think about that?
I thought in the second half, when we were down, whatever, I think it got to 31-7 or 28-7, that they should have, why not put a kid in that could throw the ball better and throw something different at him. They chose to stick with Riley Leonard, and to his credit, he played pretty good in the second half. A lot better, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we put points up on the board in the second half, but and if we score when we're down on the 5-yard line and towards the end of the third quarter and make it an 8-point game with the fourth quarter to go, I thought, shoot, we're in. This is what we want to be in. We're in a 1-score game going into the fourth quarter. It didn't work out that way. And we said this all year. All these games in relatively close, matchups, it comes down to 5, 6, 7 plays. I felt like Ohio State won most of those plays, and we've been winning them in the prior games, they won them, and they just, they deserve to win. Good football team, and they won the game.
And it was impressive that Notre Dame was able to come back from the point where it looked like it was a blowout, right? And then they came in, bam, that kid made that good play and caused that fumble and got the turnover that they needed, And so they set themselves up to be in the game and to make it competitive at the end there. So that was good. And but, it takes a lot to win a national championship. It takes a lot to be 12-0. It takes a lot to be 16-0. It takes a lot to play fundamentally sound and to, go out there every week and play the best that you can and to get wins every week. And so it's not easy, man, to bring home that trophy.
You're going to have games where the other team just plays better than you, and you got to find a way to win. And there's not an easy formula. Dave Butler and I sat together, and 3 or 4 times I could not believe, we were so ingrained in our minds about outside leverage, and hitting the gaps and turning everything back in. 3 or 4 times that their quarterback rolled out, we had no contain. I don't understand why we didn't have your outside guys got to turn the quarterback back in. He was rushing inside. Nobody was replacing him. And their quarterback just ran all day, around the end. Anyway, I don't know. I'm not going to say that Al Golden isn't a great defensive coordinator, but fundamentals are fundamentals.
No, that's a great point, because our resident coach here on Under the Golden Dome, with your hosts Frank Stams, West Pritchett, Michael Stonebreaker. The dogs are barking.
All right, look out! We've got an intruder. Intruder alert!
So
somebody's walking their dog. They can't do that.
Yeah, the dogs are. Yeah, our podcast found on alumnimedia.net.
On YouTube.
YouTube, please subscribe. So our resident coach, John Palermo, our defensive line, who was on the show not too long ago, I asked him, Notre Dame, Ohio State's certainly a good team, physical. They deserve to win that game. What were Notre Dame's shortcomings? And he mentioned the same thing you said. It's about containment, poor containment. And Notre Dame, we talked about this. It's going to be a game of mistakes. And Notre Dame made the critical mistakes at the time that they couldn't afford to make. I remember roughing the quarterback. Was a big mistake.
Was a horrible call, bro.
Yeah. And given,
I don't know if it was a horrible call. It was a dumb.
Well, maybe
played by the defensive
he didn't
guy.
rough him. He hit him like this hard, and the guy falls.
Well, whether it was dumb or smart or whatever, it was a costly mistake.
Well, this is my perspective from a linebacker that liked to hit quarterbacks late. So
Yeah. Another mistake was tackling. I think he mentions about Notre Dame's tackling, and that was an issue. Execution on third down. I felt for Riley Leonard, his accuracy suffered in the first half, and that did not allow Notre Dame to stay on the field. He ran the ball. They gave it a great shot. Lastly, I'll say is the big play. That big play at the end, the bomb over the top.
The long run.
You can't give that up in the long run. The big play.
Right. And you're not going to second guess Golden and all that, but did you need to all out blitz them on 3rd and 13 or whatever, and put that kid on the island?
They hadn't put any pressure on the quarterback the whole game, though. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't mind the selling out. I think, to me, and I don't want to make excuses, and I agree with everything Frank said, they had, somebody said, and I don't know if this is exactly accurate, we have 3 starters on the field on defense that started the season starting. We are pretty decimated. They have a lot of those guys are backups, freshmen, sophomore. Our All-American cornerback was out. Our best D lineman was out. 2 D linemen.
Wham. Are you kidding me? Get out on the field and make a fucking tackle, right? Hit somebody in the mouth. Don't let the wide receiver run over your cornerbacks, man. Get out there and play football.
Let me
You're
tell
sitting
you
there crying about everybody's hurt. Get out there and make a tackle and knock somebody out. It's playing for the national championship, man. What are you talking about? Let's go.
Hey, listen. I'm getting in fights in the stands. Hell, if I was out there, I would have been doing it. I hear you. I hear you. And that is an excuse.
That's funny. I almost got a fight in the stand.
No,
too.
we all did.
I'm
Butler
watching-
was almost getting it. Well, the Ohio State fans, let's just be honest. All right. Ohio State's a good football team. They won. Great. Their fans are horrible. I don't care what anybody says.
Their fans
They are
are
the
no
most
different.
obnoxious.
I like their fans. I think their fans are awesome.
Their
Hey,
fans-
number 3, this guy number 3 had an Ohio State jersey on. Number 2, the guy texted me and said Frank Stams is weak and he's not going to do anything to me. And Frank was scared to go down in the stands and confront the guy.
How
Yeah.
about that, Frank? Can you elaborate on
Listen, man, I'm sitting there watching this Ohio State guy, number 2. All right, and he's totally trashed. And he's MFing his own fans, bullying older dudes just watching the games. I mean, MFing, dropping F-bombs all over the place. And he just kept doing it, and he was so obnoxious. Finally, I'm looking around, nobody's doing anything. I went down there and I said, brother, I said, sit your ass. All right? All right, and it's just like, and then the people that he was bullying turned around and said, thank you. And then he started coming, when I did that, he started coming after me.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm like, are you serious, man? Are you serious?
Okay. I've been to 3 Ohio State Notre Dame games. The 2 in South Bend, my kids got accosted by Ohio State fans, like to the point where I had to tell the guy that I was going to kill him and go get the usher. We're in a suite this time. 2 Ohio State fans sitting next to my son in the next suite. The guy will not shut up about every play. Every play Ohio State makes, he's got a wise comment to me every time. I mean, it was unbearable.
Did he know? Did he know?
Let me
did
tell
he
you
know
something.
the gas?
Did that guy know what it was like sitting next to Wes Pritchett?
I wasn't saying a word. I'm sitting with my kids, and okay? So, he may not have known at that time, but he knew by the time he left, my friend. Because in the third quarter, I freaking snapped, and I literally was trying to jump over the wall, and Butler's holding me, and I'm telling the guy that I'm going to eat his face, and his other buddy looks over and looks at me and grabs his friend and takes him away, and I never saw him again. So that was the end of that. I'd had enough.
Oh my God, that is so funny.
And my kids, this is what my kids were doing. They're sitting in the seat. They looked at it. They're like, they didn't even. They were like, "There goes Dad again."
Well, this has been wonderful for the Notre Dame program to be in the first college football playoff,
100%.
the expanded playoff. They're back in the top tier of the discussion every year, being a national championship contender. I'm sure there'll be some tweaks going forward with the CFP, but Notre Dame certainly has established themselves as a legitimate force in college football, and it bodes
And
well.
they signed that Freeman to a longer contract, so hopefully they can
Deal too.
Well,
I mean,
keep
like,
those assistant coaches around, and they've got a good program. Is unbelievable. I went to I think 5 games this year, and I haven't been to 5 games total in 36 years that I've been graduated from Notre Dame, because there's a lot of energy and a lot of good things going on with the athletic department and the football team. And so it's exciting to see what the future is going to hold here.
No, you bring up a great point. I mean, the game day at Notre Dame, I mean, it is special.
It is,
I mean,
100%.
it's electric. It's a great vibe, and we've all been tailgaters. And and it's been absolutely awesome. They've got the momentum. The players like Marcus Freeman, and there's no better ambassador for recruiting both the high schools and other colleges, the portal, than the players. Giving testimony to the coach, and they like him. It's just going to get stronger
100%.
and stronger.
And I think, look, you have to learn how to win, and I think Notre Dame learned how to win. They also saw what the differential is, what they need to improve upon to be the most elite team. They were that close, but they weren't quite there. So I think everything you said bodes well. I mean, the coach is likable. We don't have a lot of kids in the transfer portal. They're only going to get better. And now they've been in the big games. And when
Yeah.
you've been in when you're used to being in the big games and you've won a lot of those games, I mean, look at obviously Alabama, and then look at what Kirby Smart did at Georgia starting like 8 years ago. They did exactly what we're doing. They got to the championship game, they lost. Then the next whatever I think they lost twice or didn't get to the championship game, and then they won 2. So I think that the trajectory of what's going on at Notre Dame right now is the best it's been since Lou was there. I mean, I have all these friends of mine that are totally unrelated to Notre Dame that were texting me and pulling for Notre Dame and talking about how they like Notre Dame, and that's
Yeah, no, a lot of pluses.
that's great.
A lot of
That's
pluses
great.
for Notre Dame. They're spending the money on the facilities that attract the kids to go to school there. The university and athletic facilities are some of the best in the nation, if not the best. Their biggest challenge, though, they've got some challenges going forward, is going to be NIL money. Ohio State, I think they were the largest NIL payout team.
Best money team can buy.
In the nation, and
Best team
and
money.
that's the way it is. I mean, New York Yankees.
Speaking of Frank, speaking of that NIL money and donating money, and it was good to see Coach Holtz was at the game and the Holtz Heroes Foundation. Today I'm wearing my N88D retro hoodie, and you can go to n88d.com and purchase a retro hoodie, and a portion of all those sales goes to the Holtz Heroes Foundation.
Wonderful. We want to thank our host, our gracious host. I certainly want to thank Wes. It's been wonderful here.
Great
The
weekend.
3 days, reconnecting, hanging out, getting to know your 3 boys, Kane, Marshall, Lawson, my son Mason, and our daughter joined us yesterday. It's absolutely been a blast. So thank you for hosting
And I'd like to
and all the work you did this weekend.
thank Grace also.
Oh,
Yes,
that's right.
yes.
That's right. Oh, and Lady and Fluffy.
And Lady and Fluffy, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
No, and let me just say, look, this was growing up in Atlanta, being here, having my 3 boys with me, having you guys with me, connecting with our teammates. I mean, we were knuckleheads and young guys, and maybe you have to be away from it for a while to look back and realize what a special time that was. But I mean, the intimacy that we had with us as players, being almost like brothers, and then our parents all being friends, and the experiences we had. That was a very, very special time. And then obviously we had success on the
Absolutely.
field.
It was a great time. So stay tuned.
A lot of fun, and I'm very thankful.
So stay tuned for more of Under the Golden Dome with your host Wes Pritchett, Frank Stams, Michael Stonebreaker. We're going to continue this on for the season. We'll go over, recruiting is such a big part in college sports, college football, and we'll continue to be having the podcast, and we're going to try to make the show bigger and better as we move forward. So thank you, Wes. Thank you, Michael, for being on the show. Really have enjoyed it.
Yep, thank you. And I just want to put one last plug. Under the Golden Dome on alumnimedia.net, on YouTube. And then when you click Under the Golden Dome, please click subscribe so you can get all the information from our podcast on your feed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. It's always fun to spend time with you guys, and go Irish.
Go Irish. That was good. 20 minutes on the button.
Perfect. I think we need to keep. I think those are good. Just boom, 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 so people can watch. Like if you do hour shows all the time, I think we're doing that's smart. Sending out these where guys can just click on it and watch 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes.
All right, Michael.
Thank you, guys.
Get your snow shovel and your snow boots on. Get back to work.
It's crazy out there. Did you see that picture I sent you?
Yeah, I saw the